Good afternoon, Mr. Ryan. I'm Nishan John, and I'm going to be doing a podcast on the topic manufacturing wildness and how BBC wildlife documentaries hide humans. So, when you're watching Planet Earth, it really feels like stepping into a world without humans. Vast frozen landscapes, endless oceans, dense jungles, and close ups of animals fighting to survive. But there are no cities, no roads, no industry, and no people. But here's the question. If these documentaries are made by large production teams using drones, helicopters, satellites, and years of planning, the question is, where did all the humans go? And in this podcast, I'll explore how BBC wildlife documentaries produced between 2016 and 2026 construct the illusion of pure nature through the erasure of visible human presence and production labor. And I'm not arguing that these documentaries are fake, but they are carefully researched and beautifully produced. But as Bill Nichols argues in Introduction to Documentary, documentaries do not transparently record reality. They represent it through specific modes, conventions, and organizational choices. What we see is always structured. So how is this illusion of untouched wilderness constructed? And why does it really matter? Wildlife documentaries like Frozen Planet 2 and 3 reach global audiences. They are widely used by environmental educators, science commuters, and in classes to teach audiences about ecosystems and biodiversity. And in a time of climate change and environmental crisis, representation matters. If nature is consistently framed as distant, remote, and untouched by human systems, it may reinforce the idea that environmental problems exist somewhere out there rather than being entangled with everyday industrial and consumer life. This makes the way nature is visually constructed especially significant for educators and communicators who rely on these types of programs to shape public understanding. So you may be asking, how exactly does this framing work? In the first episode of Frozen Planet 2, there's a sequence showing polar bear navigating a melting Arctic landscape, and the camera opens with sweeping aerial shots of ice stretching endlessly to the horizon. The framing isolates the animals with vast, empty space, and there are no research stations, no ships, no visible infrastructure, even though we know such structure exists in the Arctic. And the narration intensifies the drama. The polar bear is positioned almost as a tragic hero, enduring hardship in an unforgiving world. And the music builds emotion with slow, suspenseful tones that make the scene feel epic and timeless. Visually and sonically, the Arctic becomes a realm of pure wilderness. But what remains invisible is the production itself. The camera crews, the drones, operators, tracking technology, and months of logistical planning required to capture these images. Following Nichols, this absence is not neutral, and it is a representation by choice. By excluding visible traces of human infrastructure and labor, the documentary organizes the Arctic as separate from human systems. A similar pattern appears also in Planet Earth 3. In one of the episodes, a dramatic scene follows a predator chasing prey across an expansive desert landscape. The environment appears to be completely empty. No roads, no fences, no tourism vehicles. But the editing builds suspense through rapid cuts. The predator and the prey are positioned within a clear narrative arc of struggles and survival. And in Watching Wildlife, Cynthia Chris explains that wildlife documentaries frequently borrow conventions from melodrama, farming animals as heroes, victims, or villains, to generate emotional engagement, and these storytelling techniques make ecological processes legible and compelling. However, they also reshape complex ecosystems into simplified dramatic spectacles. Derek Berger argues that modern wildlife films are fundamentally shaped by spectacle, dramatic imagery, and emotional intensity, designed to compete in the global entertainment market. The emphasis on breathtaking visual and narrative tension influences what is shown and what is excluded. Interestingly, behind the scenes, footage reveals something very different. Large production teams, advanced camera rigs, helicopters, drones, and years of coordinations. Human presence is extensive during production, and yet in the final broadcast text, humans disappeared out of nowhere. And the result is a cinematic wilderness, visually purified and separated from modern society. The visual separation connects to broader theoretical debates. Donna Haraway challenges the idea of a fixed boundary between humans and animals. She argues that humans and animals are deeply entangled biologically, technologically, and environmentally. Yet, wildlife documentaries often present animals within spaces that appear untouched by human systems, reinforcing the very divide Haraway critiques. Similarly, Berger argued that in modern societies, animals have increasingly become spectacles, observed at a distance rather than encountered as a co-inhabitants of shared environment. Wildlife documentaries, despite their educational intentions, can reproduce this dynamic of presenting animals in isolated human-free landscapes. Nature becomes something we observe through screens rather than something we inhabit along other species. And to be fair, wildlife documentaries have played an important role in environmental awareness. They inspire conservation efforts, they foster empathy for endangered species. Producers may intentionally avoid showing human in order to keep focus on animal life. And the intention is important. But, however, even well-intentioned framing shapes perception. When humans are visually erased from ecosystem, environmental responsibilities can appear abstract. Ecological crisis may seem like a distant tragedy rather than something embedded with global economic systems and everyday consumption. Representation influences imagination, and imagination shapes how audiences understand responsibility. Between 2016 and 2026, BBC wildlife documentaries have produced some of the most visually stunning environmental media ever. But through careful framing, dramatic narration, selective editing, and the erasure of production labor, they construct a powerful image of pure wilderness. Recognizing this construction does not diminish their value. Instead, it strengthens media literacy. Because if nature is always represented as somewhere distant, somewhere without us, it becomes harder to see ourselves as part of the ecological system we aim to protect. So perhaps the real question is not only where the humans go on screen, it is what happens when we stop seeing ourselves inside the environment altogether. Thank you.